You can fire it up. Hello, everyone. Welcome in to the PHLY Bets Week 13 edition. That pains me a little bit to say that it's Week 13 of the NFL season already, but here we are. The weather has turned cold. Weather will probably start to play a little bit more of a factor in these games, as it was 26 degrees in Philadelphia when I woke up this morning. The chill is in the air. But, of course, as always, we are presented by our friends at bet365. Find out why it's never ordinary at bet365. Enter promo code PHLY365 at sign up. You can get yourself $150 in bonus bets after a $10 deposit and a $5 wager. And I am Jamie Lynch, and I am going to preview the Week 13 slate with you. I am not a handicapper douche. I am never going to guarantee you anything. I am a gambler that likes to be informed and hopefully share some of that knowledge with you. We like to go over a lot of the trends and what have yous, the ebbs and flows of the NFL season. And Turkey Day, man, I just missed two parlays that were going to take Bet365 down to their knees. One was like a plus 5,500 parlay that the only thing it missed on was the hook on the over at the end of the game. The Dolphins went for two, which technically was the right football play to get the score within 11. But had they just kicked the extra point, I would have turned a $5 bet into about $335. So that was a nice kick in the junk to start the week, but we pick ourselves up and we're back here to look at Sunday's slate. As always, we'll start with a little bit of the league trends that are happening, and then we'll jump first into the Eagles-Ravens, which is a 425 game, but it is definitely the game of the week here with Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson going head-to-head down in Baltimore. So a couple trends to keep an eye on around the league. Home field advantage. This is not a good year for home field advantage. Entering Thursday, Thanksgiving, the home teams were just 77, 93, and 4 against the spread on the season. But even more shockingly, just 87 and 87 straight up. Yeah, there's not really a home field advantage in football this year. Maybe you could make the argument that a lot of bad teams kind of bell curve that back to a more 500 level. But home field advantage is gone out the window a little bit this year. Pretty surprising. The Bills, they can clinch the division this week, week 13, which is crazy. If they win and the Dolphins lose, they would be the first NFL team to clinch a division with 5 weeks left to play since the Colts did it in 2009. So pretty surprising there. We could already have a division winner. Also, the Lions and the Chiefs can also clinch a non-division playoff berth this week. They would be the first duo to clinch a non-divisional berth with 5 weeks to play since the Vikings and Broncos did it all the way back in 1998. I think John Elway's old ass was still playing. And Josh Allen, we'll get into some of the numbers with him in the second half. If you're a half better, there's a lot of teams out there that are really good at the first and not so good at the second, or vice versa. We'll get into all that. But let's get it started with the big one. Eagles, Ravens. I know that's why you're here. So let's get into it. For the record, before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, I do love A.J. Brown to have a day today. This Ravens defense is susceptible to the big play. I think Saquon and A.J., probably no Devontae, it's looking like today. So, again, it's going to be A.J. Brown on an island. And typically I would say, a team can bracket them off and kind of take it away. But I think A.J. is going to have a day. So we have a custom odds boost up on Bet365 right now. It's right there on the homepage. If you think the Eagles win, it's Eagles money line, and it's A.J. Brown anytime touchdown. and A.J. Brown over 100 yards on the day. That's boosted up to plus 750, which I think is some pretty nice action there on a very realistic day for A.J. Brown. So keep that in mind. But it's Lamar. They're in the top wild card spot. They're not even their division leader. He's kind of looked human the last 2 or 3 weeks versus the Birds, who have won 7 in a row. And every game A.J. Brown has played this year, they've won. So this is steal on steal. Lamar Jackson has taken it to Vic Fangio in the past when the two have met. But Nick Sirianni has never met Lamar Jackson in his career. So some stuff there we'll get into as well. All right, so let's start it off with some Lamar Jackson boogeyman stats. He is 26-6 against the spread in the regular season when he is either listed as an underdog, which is not the case here, or a favorite of 3 points or fewer, which he is. That's kind of scary. He is the best mark of any quarterback over the last 20 years. When Lamar is at home in this situation, which he is today, he's 9-0 straight up and 8-1 against the spread, covering the spread by a combined 15.2 points. So Lamar doesn't take very kindly to being a home underdog, more or less. Now, this line is back up to 3. It was sitting at 2.5 for the majority of the week, but the Ravens currently on Bet365 are -3. Over-under on this one is 51. If you want to take the Ravens money line, you got to lay -155. I do like the over in this game as well. We talked about Nick Sirianni never facing Lamar Jackson. Well, in Lamar Jackson's career, he has had 95 starts where he's faced a coach for the first time. 95 career starts. He has faced a coach for the first time 44 of those 95 times. His record, you ask, in those situations? Yeah, 37-7 straight up. He wins 84% of matches against a first-time coach. That's not great. So Lamar has played 9 home games on short rest in his career, which they are coming off Monday Night Football out west this week in the Har Bowl. He is 9-0 straight up and 7-2 against the spread in those situations. That is the most straight up wins at home on short rest without a loss for a quarterback over the last 20 years. Yikes. In his career as a starter, Lamar Jackson, I already read that one. And Jalen Hurts over the last 6 games. Jalen Hurts is playing absolutely tremendous football. The Eagles are 7-0 straight up. And since week 6, Jalen Hurts is 4th in the NFL in EPA per play, 5th in success rate, and he is 2nd in completion percentage over expectation with 18 total touchdowns and 1 INT. Now, I picked the Eagles a lot. I don't know. This just feels like an ebb and flow spot. I'm basing it more not on the quality of the teams, because I do think the Eagles kind of have a slightly better team. The Ravens have a better quarterback slightly, or majorly, however you want to phrase that. This to me just feels like an ebb and flow spot. The Ravens came back last week in fashion, but they've looked susceptible lately. They've kind of been middling out a little bit, and the Eagles probably have to come back to earth at some point. I actually like the Ravens today. I hate to say it, but give me the +3 with the Ravens. I hate saying that. All right, let's get to the rest of the slate. And by the way, like that A.J. Brown over today, Saquon Barkley is probably a safe bet. A.J. Brown's over 88.5 yards. I do like that. He's the only receiver worth a grain of salt out there. So a couple things I like. Derrick Henry, if you want to gamble with his over-under. Why would you want to do that as an Eagles fan? But if we have some Ravens fans in here, probably not a bad bet as well. Zay Flowers, always a fun over as well. So let's get to the rest of the slate. The Arizona Cardinals kick off the 1 o'clock slate. They are in Minnesota. They are +3.5 in this game. And over-under is 45. The Cardinals are +150 on the money line. Minnesota has been a absolutely house of horrors for the Ravens. Since 1980, Arizona Cardinals are 0-10 straight up and 2-7-1 against the spread when playing the Vikings in Minnesota. 6 of those 10 games have been since 2010. Kyler Murray, He is a mystery figure. One of these guys that plays much better as a dog than he does as a favorite in his career. He started 29 games in his career where his team is above 500. Arizona is just 12-17 against the spread in those spots. And when the game is in November or later, they're just 4-13 against the spread. So Kyler Murray kind of melts in November and December with a winning record is what that tells me. Kyler Murray road unders have been very profitable throughout his career. They are 24-12-1 and 500 or better in all of the last 5 seasons entering this year. Now, we talked about Kyler Murray being a better underdog than he is favorite. Well, he's 30-17-2 against the spread as a dog in his career and just 11-17 as a favorite against the spread. As a road dog, Kyler Murray is 19-7-2 against the spread, the 5th best mark of any quarterback since 2003. That's 274 quarterbacks. That being said, I don't love it. This is a tough sledding weekend. I think the Vikings win the game. Do I think they cover that number? If I had to choose, yes, I'd probably lean Vikings here. But Kyler Murray does show up as a dog. Just does he do it in Minnesota? Does he break the franchise kind of curse there? We'll see. But give me the Vikings minus the 3.5. All right, next up, the Houston Texans are minus 3.5 at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over-under on this one is 44. If you want the Texans on the money line, you got to lay minus 190. Texans have dominated the Jaguars in Jacksonville. They've won their last 5 games in Jacksonville outright, going 4-1 against the spread in those games. Since the start of 2011, Houston is 10-2 straight up, 9-3 against the spread on the road versus the Jaguars, covering the spread by an average of 6 points per game. CJ Stroud, he's up to 29 starts already in the NFL. He's 8-4 against the spread as an underdog, 6-11 as a favorite in his pro career. So another guy that plays better as a dog, just more comfortable there. And no matter the situation, Doug Peterson has been a good bet as an underdog throughout his career. He's 16-11 against the spread with the Jags, and he was 21-17 against the spread with the Eagles as a dog. As a home underdog, Doug Peterson is 17-7 against the spread as head coach, the 3rd best mark of 154 coaches since 2003. Now, Trevor Lawrence is back for the Jaguars this weekend. Doug P's pretty much going to get fired at some point here, either at the end of the year or in the coming weeks. They have shown a propensity to show up and fight for Doug Peterson. They're not quitting playing under him. That being said, give me the Texans. I don't like it, but I don't want to be on the other side of that because Houston's the better football team. The Indianapolis Colts are minus 2.5 at the New England Patriots. Over-under on this one is 42.5. If you want to take the points out of it and just take the Colts on the money line, you can get them at minus 135. The Colts lost to the Lions last week. And teams after facing the Lions are just 3-6 straight up on the year and 1-8 against the spread. The theory out there is that the Lions are a physical team and kind of beat you up and just bloody you and beat you down. Dan Campbell eating kneecaps and all that. They've been failing to cover in that situation this year by almost 12 points a game. And over the last 3 seasons, teams after playing the Lions are 15-27 against the spread, the least profitable previous opponent situation in the entire NFL. The Colts have played 19 one-score games under head coach Shane Steichen, and they're 11-8 straight up and 14-5 against the spread. So Shane Steichen is good in those close games, against the spread at least. The Patriots at home versus a non-division opponent, boy, do they suck. Outside the AFC East, they've played at home versus a team outside the AFC East. This is the 4th time this year. They're 0-3 straight up in those games. And over the last 2 years, New England is 0-8 straight up, 0-6-2 against the spread at home versus teams outside of the AFC East. Give me the Colts in this one, minus the 2.5, and let's just hope for the best. Okay, the LA Chargers, -1 at the Atlanta Falcons. Over under on this one is 47.5. The Chargers are minus 120 on the money line. This is going to be a team playing at home off of a bye versus a team on the road on short rests. Those teams since 2003 are covering 64% of the time, the home team that is, winning by an average of 3.5 points. And since 2020, teams in this situation are 42-19 straight up at home. Through 11 games, the Falcons cannot produce sacks. They are terrible. Their leaders, Grady Jarrett and Matthew Judon, lead the team with 2.5 sacks. On the season, the Falcons just have 10 sacks in 11 games. Oof. Since the year 2000, the only team that has had fewer sacks through 11 games was the 2008 Chiefs, who had 6, and no team with 10 sacks or less through 11 weeks has made the playoffs. There was a report that came out yesterday that it's kind of do or die time for Kirk Cousins, and what he does over the next month is going to determine his future with the Falcons. And there's a possibility they could seek a trade and just go over to Michael Penix, but we'll see. Big one for Kirky Cuz. The Chargers on short rest this week after Monday Night Football. Harbaugh and the Chargers have played on short rest once this season, and they had a 26-8 home win against the Saints. That being said, I kind of like the Falcons here. I like Kirk Cousins, a little bit of a home dog action. So give me the Falcons plus the 1 at home. Don't love it, just like it. All right, next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 3 at Cincinnati. And you're going, wait, Cincinnati's record is horrible. Pittsburgh's is good. They're leading their division. How are the Bengals a 3-point favorite? Over-under on this one is 46.5. If you want the Steelers on the money line, you can get them plus 135. So the Bengals are 4-7 on the season. They've won 36% of their games. And they're listed as a favorite against the 8-3 Steelers, who have won nearly 73% of their games. Tell you anything? This is just the 5th time in the wild card era a team with a win percentage of 37% or less is listed as a favorite over a team with a win percentage of 72% or higher in December or later, and the first time since 2017. Steelers are underdogs. We've talked about Mike Tomlin and what a beast he is as an underdog. This season, the Steelers are 4-0 straight up and against the spread when listed as a dog. In the regular season, they've won 6 straight games as underdogs, losing to the Bills in the playoffs last year as the last time. Joe Burrow, he's been very effective coming off of bye weeks in his career. He's 4-2 straight up and against the spread, and he scored 30-plus points in 3 straight games with a full week bye, averaging over 26 points per game. Joe Burrow has won and covered in 4 in a row off of a bye in the regular season. I mean, this line to me is telling you to take the Bengals. I probably would, but can this be a game where the Steelers defense kind of wins them a game? Russell Wilson looks like he's middled out back to reality. Give me the Bengals, but I don't like it. I'm tempted to go with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers as a dog. All right, Seahawks at the Jets is next up. The Seahawks are a 1-point dog. Over-under is 41.5, minus 110 on both money lines here. This is gross. This game's gross. We're not going to spend too much time on it. In Geno's career, he's 6-0 as a road favorite of 1 point or higher against the spread. Jeff Ulbrich, who's been filling in as the interim coach for the Jets, yeah, he's just 1-5 against the spread in his 6 games so far. Aaron Rodgers, he stinks. He's got the 6th worst completion percentage above expectation, and the 6th lowest average depth of target for any qualified quarterback this year. Dude is cooked. This is the 6th game Rodgers will play this season against a team with a 500 or better record. The Jets are 1-4 straight up and against the spread in those spots, with their lone win coming against the Texans, who can't close out games. Give me the Seahawks and Geno on the road plus the 1. The Jets stink. You can't bet them. That would be no fun. All right, last 1 o'clock game is the Tennessee Titans at the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are coming off a really embarrassing 10-point plus loss to the Cowboys last week. Over the last decade, teams as a favorite coming off a 7-point or higher loss are 76, 52, and 3 against the spread, nearly 60%, going 8-2 against the spread this year. Jaden Daniels is 1-3 straight up and 1-2-1 against the spread versus teams 500 or better this year, and is 6-1 straight up against the spread versus teams below 500 this year, with the only loss last week to the Cowboys. Titans are trying to put together a little something called a winning streak. They're not too familiar with that down in Tennessee. Since the start of last year, the Tennessee Titans are 0-7 against the spread the week after a straight-up loss. 0-8 against the spread going back to their last 8 games. They're the only team in the NFL without a cover after a straight-up win in that span. I'm going with the Commanders minus the 6. I don't like it, but Tennessee burned me last week, and I feel like they can't burn me twice, right? That's how smart bettors think. All right, the 4 o'clock slate starts. The LA Rams are minus 2.5 at the New Orleans Saints. Over-under on this one is 49. The Rams are minus 150 on the money line. Derek Carr, he stinks. He's 3-7 straight up and 4-6 against the spread in his career, coming off a full bye week since 2017. The worst quarterback against the spread in the NFL of 81 quarterbacks during that span. Yeesh. Derek Carr has struggled facing defenses allowing 21 points or more on the season. He's just 37, 60, and 3 against the spread when the defenses allow 21 or more points per game. That's wild. Derek Carr has faced Sean McVay 3 times in his career, and he's 0-3 against the spread in those games, failing to cover the spread by on average 8 points per game. And McVay and Stafford have played their duo with the Rams. They're 27-9 straight up when listed as favorites, only 6-15 straight up as underdogs. That being said, can't bet on Derek Carr here. Give me the Rams minus the 2.5. All right, the Tampa Bay Bucks are the next 4 o'clock game. They're minus 6 in Carolina. Over-under on this one is 46.5. If you want the Bucks on the money line, you got to lay minus 275. This is going to be the Carolina Panthers' 32nd consecutive game as underdogs. Oof. When Baker Mayfield faces a divisional opponent in his career, he's 9-8 against the spread as a dog, just 5-12 against the spread as a favorite. Baker is 2-10 against the spread in his last 12 divisional games as a favorite, winning his last 2, including 1-0 against the spread this year. Baker Mayfield has faced all 32 teams in the NFL in his career. He is 3-0 straight up or better against only one team, the Carolina Panthers. He's won all 3 games by 9 points or less, going 2-1 against the spread, while Carolina has scored 20 points or less against Baker Mayfield's teams in all 3 games. Again, don't love it. Just kind of like it. Give me the Bucks minus the 6 in this one. Bryce Young's been playing some decent ball lately, so don't sleep on him too much. All right, we already talked about Eagles-Ravens at the start. The Sunday night football game, the San Francisco 49ers are plus 6.5 at Buffalo. Over-under on this one is 44.5. If you like the 49ers to pull this one off, you can get them plus 240 on the money line. I like the Bills in this one, and we'll go on to tell you why in a minute. Brock Purdy, he missed last week's game, and he's not really used to being an underdog. This is uncharted territory for Brock Purdy. He has a streak of 36 consecutive regular season games as a favorite, the 3rd longest streak in the Super Bowl era, only behind the Rams, the greatest show on turf, and the Patriots, the greatest dynasty ever. So Brock Purdy, shockingly, thanks to the strength of his team, not really used to being an underdog in the NFL. The 49ers are having some second half issues on the year. They're just 2-9 against the second half spread, losing 9 of their last 10 second half against the spreads. In Brock Purdy's first 2 years in the NFL, he was 17-10 against the second half spread. Josh Allen and the Bills, on the inverse of it, are killing teams in the second half. Under Josh Allen, the Bills are 68, 43, and 3 against the second half spread. And when you throw in the fact that Josh Allen's coming off of a bye in this situation, you got to weigh that because he's 7-0 straight up, 4-2-1 against the spread went off a full week bye in his career, and he averages 27.1 points per games in those spots. And over the last 20 years, no other quarterback is even 6-0 straight up in those spots. So Josh Allen has just been a beast in the second half against the spread, and especially coming off a bye. Give me the Bills minus the 6.5 in this one. And let's root them in. And then finally, the Monday Night Football capper, the Cleveland Browns and Jameis Winston are +6 at the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, who makes his Monday Night Football debut. Over-under on this one is 42. To get the money line, you got to lay -270 to get the Broncos. Bo Nix has only closed as a favorite 5 times in his young career, and he's 5-0 straight up and against the spread in those spots. He's covering the spread by an average of 13.7 points per game in that spot, and he's the only remaining quarterback undefeated against the spread as a favorite this year. Rookie quarterbacks making their Monday Night Football debut. How do they do? Well, since the start of 2022, the quarterbacks are 4-1 straight up on Monday Night Football in their debut. Sean Payton hasn't been doing great against the nighttime game. He's got the nighttime scaries. Since 2020 with Denver and New Orleans, he is 4-12 against the spread in night games. The least profitable against the spread head coach of 58 coaches during that span. Jameis Winston once played in the same division as Sean Payton, and now they're facing off in new divisions. He's faced him 9 times in his NFL career. Winston is 3-6 straight up against the spread and has lost his last 3 matchups versus Payton straight up and against the spread dating back to 2018. And Monday Night Football overs continue to be a trend in 2024. They are 11-4 to the over, on average going over by 5 points per game. All right, there's some of the information and some of my picks. And that being said, I didn't give my pick on that one. Give me the Broncos. But I do like the over in that game. So there's some of my thoughts. There's some of the trends and facts out there. Hopefully you find this information helpful for your betting purposes this weekend. And of course, you should be betting with Bet365. And you can find out why it's never ordinary. There's 90 million worldwide users. That many people just simply cannot be wrong. And they pioneered live in-game betting. And there's tons of odds boosts and promos. We got our PHLY custom odds boost up on the homepage right now. So live in-game betting, they're spectacular at. I like the player milestones. If you don't really want to take in A.J. Brown over 88.5 yards, you could just bet them to have over 75 or 25 or 50, whatever it may be. And just remember, sports gambling is supposed to be fun. If you or someone you know has a problem and wants help, you can call or text 1-800-GAMBLER at any time. And please tell your friends about the promo code here at PHLY for Bet365. All right, we have a nifty little graphic with some of the picks I really like here. A little plus 400 same game parlay in the Eagles game. Just take the spreads out of it because I don't want to pick the Ravens. Let's go over the 51 in this game, which I really like. And I just feel I felt it all week that A.J. Brown's going to have a huge game. Saquon, not that he's stealing all the thunder, but he's been getting all the attention. People forget about A.J. Brown. So I'm going to go with him anytime touchdown and over 100 yards on the day. Give me the Atlanta Falcons and Kirky Cuz as a home dog. And then bet number 2. Give me the Bills. That's moved a little bit since we made this graphic. It's now 6.5. But give me the Bills in that situation there. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to Andrew Fraser for producing. Don't forget today, the Eagles show is going to be live at Garage in Fishtown for the pregame show. And then halftime with Fran and Bo back in the studio. And then postgame with myself, Fran, Bo, Vinny Curry, and Zach Berman checking in from Baltimore. So we've got you covered all game day here on PHLY. Hopefully everybody makes some money this Sunday. Let's take all Bet365's money and have a happy week 13, everyone. We'll see you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.